Okay, welcome back, friends. Here we are at part 3 of our weight loss series. Now that we've already figured out our plan and the tools needed to enact that plan, now we're actually going to talk about conducting the diet itself. So let's jump right in. And I'm sure that you'll remember that our focus here is only on calories in versus calories out. That's all we care about. And so as long as calories in minus calories out is equal to our deficit, whether it be 500 or 750, as long as that's true, then we know we're in good shape. So we have 3 parts of this equation, and only one of them is truly set. That's your deficit that we calculated. And so the other 2, calories in versus calorie out, are in fact variable. And as long as I get those to match up, then I'm okay. For example, if I'm eating 2,000 calories a day, and I know that my deficit should be negative 750, well then my calories out, by doing some simple algebra, is 2750 per day. If I make sure that my calories out, which as a reminder is your RMR plus your exercise, which is equal to your TDEE, if I make sure that is correct every day, well then I'm good. The problem occurs because you don't know that number exactly every day. Your activity level naturally fluctuates based on what you're doing for exercise, whether you're exercising at all or not, what you're doing at work, what you're doing as far as household chores. This naturally fluctuates throughout the day. And even if you had the tools to calculate it, for example, the heart rate monitor that I mentioned before, instead of trying to figure out that number exactly, I'm going to give you a better way. And that way is just take the number from the TDEE calculator that we talked about before and just call that gospel. That is your calories out every day. Don't worry about those fluctuations. And if you do this, well then I have my deficit, I have my calories out, and all I have to worry about in that equation is calories in, which is much easier to track because you can track your food intake very easily. This is going to simplify the process quite a bit, only having to track that one variable. And if you're worried, by the way, that these inaccuracies I mentioned are going to be a problem for your weight loss, don't worry, I've got an answer for that. So before we stop talking about calories out and talk about some other topics, let's talk about exercise. You're probably wondering, what kind of exercise do I need to do? How important is it? First of all, you might be surprised to know that exercise is in fact not crucial to the weight loss process.
You serious?
You can lose weight perfectly fine just by controlling your caloric intake. But just because you can do it doesn't mean that it's optimal. And so I'm going to recommend that you maintain a light to moderate workout routine during this entire time. And so that's going to include light to moderate cardio, something like long walks, medium intensity jogs, medium intensity bike rides, that sort of thing, and light to moderate strength training. In fact, I'm going to recommend that you avoid heavy exercise of any type throughout this entire process. The reason is because your body is already going to be stressed from the diet itself.
Doctor said I need a backiotomy.
You're in a caloric deficit, a pretty high caloric deficit, and that reminds your body of starving. It doesn't like that. And so your moods may be worse, you are going to be more prone to injury, you're going to have higher stress levels in general. You don't need to add to that with super hard workouts, which by the way are going to be unsustainable anyway. You're not going to have enough energy. And so just keep that light to moderate intensity exercise, both cardio and strength training. Fight the urge to spend all day in the gym in an effort to try to lose weight faster. Don't worry, the process is going to work just fine without that. And of the 2, cardio and strength, I'm going to tell you that strength training is more important. Now let's talk a little bit more about the food that you're eating. Are there any concerns there? So I'm going to tell you to keep things simple and just worry about 2 things: caloric intake, total caloric intake, and total protein intake. That's it, nothing else. Total caloric intake, we should know by now why that's important, but why is total protein intake important? Well, it turns out that protein intake is extremely important for a few different reasons. The first is that your body will preferentially cannibalize your muscle over fat. It's a survival mechanism when in a caloric deficit. Your body doesn't care about being able to run super far or lift heavy things if survival's on the line. It just wants you to live another day, and in that case, fat is much more important than muscle. So barring outside factors, your body will cannibalize muscle over fat. And so keeping a high protein intake in addition to your strength routine, that will keep you from losing muscle. Remember now that in our diet, we're making sure to only lose body fat. You see, in some poorly constructed diets, such as crash diets or fad diets that promise you can lose 5, 7, 10 pounds in a week, you're often losing muscle in addition to or in place of body fat. In which case, what's the point? What are you doing? Yeah, you're lighter, technically. The number on the scale is moving down. That's true. You're also less healthy. You're also flabbier, weaker. You look worse. What are you doing? Might as well not even do the diet at all.
Boom. Roasted.
In addition to that primary reason, protein also is more satiating than other macronutrients like fats and carbohydrates, meaning that it makes you feel more full so that you're not as hungry. And finally, there's something called the thermic effect of consuming protein, which means that your body is burning more calories to consume and process protein as opposed to other macronutrients. All right, so we're avoiding muscle loss. We're doing that by keeping up our strength routine. And if you're curious about what a good strength routine is, you don't have to make it too complicated. There's so many online. Just look up a basic beginner program or talk to a friend that seems to be in good shape and knows what they're doing in the gym. It's not that important. You just need to provide that stimulation to your muscles. So if we have that down, then all we need to worry about is our protein intake. How much protein do we need to be consuming? My recommendation to you is going to be that if you are only, let's say, mildly overweight, which I would say is under 30 BMI. Your BMI, by the way, is your body mass index. There's a ton of calculators online, just go look it up. If your body mass index is less than 30, you want to shoot for 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body mass every day. If you are over 30 BMI, then shoot for 0.65 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. And by the way, you don't have to calculate the grams of protein you're eating per day separately. The calorie counting app that you're using will do that automatically for you. Now, I can already hear through space and time and my computer screen and some sort of YouTube magic the complaints that that's a ridiculous amount of protein.
Okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man. No, I don't want to. Well, yeah, you do, but look, Pat, look, here's the deal.
And I'm going to suggest that might be one of the problems here. If your diet is mostly carbs and fats, that's a problem. You need to have a healthy amount of protein. It's a little bit less important normal day to day if you're a healthy weight, but as I said before, it's even more important when you're on a diet. So how much protein are we talking here? Well, if you're 6 foot tall and 200 pounds, let's say, then your BMI will be under 30. You'll be in that 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. That's going to equal to 160 whopping grams of protein per day, which is about the same as a 20-ounce ribeye steak. If instead you are 5 foot and that same 200 pounds, your BMI is going to be over 30 and you're going to be in that 0.65 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day, and that's still 130 grams of protein. Now the key here to consuming this much protein per day, which you might not be used to, is to do two things primarily. One, make sure that you're eating some lean meat at every meal, or failing that, a good protein shake. And second, to space your meals throughout the day. So if I am trying to eat that 20-ounce ribeye steak, it makes a lot more sense and is probably better for you anyway to space that out throughout the day. So 4 meals of 5 ounces of steak is much easier than 1 meal of 20 ounces. So those are the only 2 constraints that I'm going to put in your diet. 1, to make sure that you get your daily caloric intake right, and 2, make sure that you get your daily protein intake right. And aside from that, I'm not going to put any constraints on you. Eat what you want. Now, obviously, it's better to eat healthy. I'm going to recommend that you have a balanced diet filled with fruits and vegetables and whole foods rather than beer and cupcakes and whatever else. But truthfully, that's less important right now. We're going to focus on one thing at a time. And right now, that one thing is weight loss. We're going to figure out your total health later. We're going to figure out the perfect workout. We can figure out the perfect diet day to day once you are at a healthy body weight. All right, this video is getting a little bit long, so we're going to stop here. There's 3 takeaways that I want you to have. The first, focus on your caloric intake only, not your calories out. Let your calories out number be what you calculated with that TDEE calculator and call that good. The second, keep your normal exercise routine and your normal daily activity routine. The only thing that I require is that you keep a light to moderate strength routine. Do not overdo it with the exercise. The purpose of the strength routine is to make sure that your body knows that you're still using your muscles, you still need them, don't consume them. Finally, ensure that you're getting the right amount of protein. If your BMI is under 30, 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. If you're over 30 BMI, 0.65 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. All right, so that's where we'll leave this video. In the next video, we'll continue our discussion about conducting a diet. We're going to talk about things like weigh-ins, fine-tuning, adjustments when things go wrong, all those sorts of things to make sure that we reach our goal. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.